Hey everybody, it's Chris. This is going to be my review comparison video for Season 3, Episode 10. So, just a quick FYI that I'm doing at the beginning of all of my videos now. There will be spoilery content in this because I compare what happens in the TV show to the novels. So, if you don't want to know anything like that, turn this off now. We'll miss you, but I'm sure you'll be happier. Okay. Without further ado, let's get into this. Coming in at number 7, we have Proto Miller. From the opening sequence, when he's floating there beside a free-falling Holden, to the exchanges they have in the nucleus, I feel like this was, Miller's episode. It was really interesting how they had Holden push Miller to, knock him out of the proto-molecules program. Having this moment between Miller and Holden was pretty great, and not something I remember from the books. Miller always sidesteps the question of what happened to Julie with a standard, I don't want to talk about what happened to Julie. While we still don't really know what happened to her, we have a glimpse into how much of Miller really exists within the investigator, which is a pretty, powerful thing. Coming in at number 6, we have Anna. I know, I feel like a broken record here, but man, they keep destroying Anna's character. It's really amazing how drastic the difference is as well. It almost seems intentional. I always thought that she was handled with grace and respect in the novels. She was religious, obviously, but not a fundamentalist. She could see the limits of her own knowledge and was comfortable with the scientific being just as plausible as the divine when it come to explaining the universe around her. That being said, she took her duties as a pastor seriously. This moment, where she basically ignores a clearly frightened person who is reaching out to her for comfort because she's too busy ogling the view screen as they pass into the ring, was just plain wrong and insulting to her character and, to those of us who loved her character from the books. At number 5, we have Bobby. Yeah, this was weird for me. Bobby was not involved in this moment in the novels at all. To include her here feels forced and doesn't add anything to the plot, really. In my opinion, it distracts from it. This was one of the most important moments in the book that this story is harvested from. And as such, the only characters you really knew or cared about were Miller and Holden. And as much as I love her character, because I do, and the actor who plays her, I really don't like this angle. There were Martian Marines coming after Holden in the novels, but they were all nameless characters for very good reason. This moment was also where we got to see the viciousness of the alien technology for the first time. We had a moment of it in the episode, but not enough to really understand. This was a much longer part of the novels as well. Basically a game of cat and mouse as the Marines try and catch up to Miller and Holden. And I missed that a lot in this episode. At number 4, we have Amos, my favorite character. I mean, it's only a single scene, maybe 3 minutes altogether, but it was still one of my favorite moments in this episode. Cass Anvar and Wes Chatham have been consistently turning in some pretty amazing moments together in this show. And this, is just another prime example of that. I loved how they are slowly teasing these little nuggets about Amos and his past. From teaching Christian how to walk in mag boots to his need to defend the man Brax is from the man he could become if he makes a misstep. He is becoming more and more three-dimensional and interesting. And the same goes for Alex. He feels more and more realized with every episode, which is a pleasure to see. The books are odd in that they take a really long time to actually flesh out each character, in my opinion, other than Holden and Naomi. I always felt like they were the most realized, and the rest of the crew were just, there as foils, color, and humor. So outstanding job for developing these characters this much faster, writers. Also, I think it's hilarious that Alex is basically Amos's cat. Number 3, we have Mutiny on the Behemoth. This is so interesting to me. I mean, I have been expecting it since the first episode Ashford made an appearance in, but it isn't going to happen how I had assumed, which is awesome. In the novels, Ashford is the captain, and his XO is a woman named Pa. Ashford is an honorable, if useless, belter. He makes a number of questionable decisions that eventually lead Paw and Bull, an Earther who is a security chief and third in command, to removing him from active duty and remanding him to custody in a makeshift brig. It takes a while for Paw to be convinced to usurp the captain, since she is a by-the-book type. I have a feeling that Ashford is Paw in the show, not wanting to seize control through mutiny, but for different reasons, as we see in his exchange with Marco. Coming in at number 2, we have Clarissa Attacks. This is a major change from the novels. In some sense, it goes a long way to show just how broken and lost she has become, but it also downplays the depth of her insanity in my mind. In the book, she has a warped sense of self and others that play out in moments like this, sometimes choosing to snap and kill someone, as with a member of her tech crew, or not, as she did in the novels with Tilly. It made her character more interesting since she was so unpredictable. They seem to have made her more or less a killer all the time, which means, for me, she's less interesting. And it could complicate the story down the road, since she is instrumental in how these events play out in the novels, and it is precisely her unpredictability that makes it all work. So, I'm excited to see what they do. And coming in at number 1, The Truth of the Ring. And we get to the moment of the episode. Essentially what the entire series has been building to. Holden accessing the central hub and getting a glimpse of a bigger, stranger, way more dangerous world than we ever thought possible. I am reluctant to talk about this right now because it is the epitome of spoiler, but let's just say the story is about to do a flip and burn into a new, crazier direction. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about it more after the next episode. One thing though before I go, why on earth was Holden naked? I mean, yeah, the man is muscly, but other than fan service of one type or another, it doesn't really make any sense. It was all on his head. He could have been wearing a tube top and board shorts. Or more likely, the clothes he is most comfortable in, his Rossi uniform. It was just weird. Just weird. Okay, that's it. That is my top moments in this episode that differed either in an interesting way or what I perceive as troubling way from the source material. This was another amazing episode, though. I mean, my very small complaints aside, there were some really amazing moments, and I really love what they're building to, and they're doing a good job of pushing headlong into it. I was kind of worried because they're having to cross so much territory in so little time because we're at the end of this season, but they're deftly handling that, and it doesn't feel rushed, which is what I was concerned about. So I'm super excited for the next couple of episodes because, man, the payoff at the end of all this, if you've not read the novels, is pretty great, and it really changes the story in a profound way, and you go to a completely different story. I mean, it's like, it's hard to talk about without spoiling anything, but needless to say, at the end of this season, the entire story changes. As always, I appreciate you watching. If you liked this, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, go ahead and give it that thumbs down so I can tell how well I'm doing. That ratio is important, to me at least. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification icon bell thingy there so you can be alerted when a new video comes out. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is @ChrisJDavis, and if you want to chat, ask questions, any of that nonsense, just find me there, and you can follow me if you want, or if not, just yell at me.